And now, the mental game.
Hi, I'm JBarrs. Today we're going to talk about mental training techniques. Now you've heard about them in the past, and you've heard other tapes, and you've seen other things about them, but nobody's ever taught you how to take mental training from inside to outside where you're actually practicing, and then from the practice field to the actual tournament field. Well, today we're going to do that. We're going to teach you several different techniques. We're going to teach you how to apply them in practice, and then how to take them to the tournament field. And I really think it'll help improve your scores. When I give my seminars, I like to ask people, how much of archery do you feel is mental? And most of the time it's around 70%. Then I ask them, how much do you feel is actual practicing and shooting your bow? And they say about 25%. And then I ask them how much of it is tuning and your equipment. And they say about 5%. So then I ask, okay, how much do you spend on your mental side of the game? And they say about 5%. And you say, and how much do you spend on shooting? And they say about 70%. And how much do you spend on your equipment and tuning? And they say about 25%. Well, that didn't quite add up. If 70% of the sport is mental, why aren't you spending 70% of your time doing your mental training? So what we're going to try to do is teach you how to do that mental training and to put in the time that it takes on the mental side to make the physical and the tuning and the equipment and the form pay off. First thing I like archers to do before you get all wrapped up with mental training or physical training is you need to sit down and decide, what do I want from the sport? Do I want to be a world champion? Do I want to be an Olympic champion? Do I just want to go out and have fun? There's too many archers that are out there that can only practice a half an hour a day once a week, but they expect to go out and shoot 1,300 scores or to compete with a world-class archer. You can't do that. Before the '88 Olympic Games, I was training a minimum of 300 arrows a day. So you have to sit down and decide, this is how much I can train, this is what I can put into it, and be realistic about what you can expect in tournaments. The whole reason we started archery was for fun. So before you get mad that you're not shooting 1,300s or you're not shooting the same scores you're shooting in practice in tournaments, figure out what you have that you can give to the sport and what you realistically think you can get out of it. That'll take all the pressure off. You can go to the tournament, you can have fun. You know how you're going to shoot or about how you're going to shoot, and if you're not shooting 1,300s, you're not going to get all wound up. You'll have a lot more fun. I'm asked the question a lot, what is mental training? The term scares a lot of people. They think about self-hypnosis or subliminal tapes or mental imagery. Well, those are all different forms of mental training. Mental imagery is merely focusing your mind on what you want to see your body doing. You think about what you're doing, you visualize yourself doing it, and you visualize yourself doing it perfectly. That's the beauty of mental training, because you can always do it perfectly. You can shoot in any tournament you want to be in, under any kind of weather circumstances. You can shoot any score you want to shoot. It's the perfect way to train, because your body doesn't know the difference whether your mind is thinking about it or if you're actually out there performing it. Your body doesn't know and your subconscious doesn't know. And that's what you're trying to do, is train your subconscious so it has no idea whether it's actually doing it or you're just thinking about doing it. That way, when you get into the actual shot and you're actually shooting in a tournament, your subconscious is already programmed. It's just going through what it's supposed to do. So it's not there to bother you. It's running its program, and it's going to shoot perfect every time, because that's how you've trained it to be, is perfect. Now, you can take any type of mental training you want, and if it works for you, great. If subliminal tapes work for you, wonderful. There hasn't been a lot of research proving that they work, but if you've tried them in the past and they work, that's great. All subliminal tapes do is repeat a positive message over and over and over, and it's usually masked by music or by waves crashing on the beach or a waterfall. But your subconscious can hear it, and it picks it up. And if you hear it enough in your subconscious, eventually you'll begin to believe it. I'm not wild about subliminal tapes, but if you've tried them in the past and they work, use them. Forms I like best are mental imagery and mental rehearsal, and they're basically the same thing. With mental imagery, you can visualize yourself shooting from inside your body or from outside your body like you're watching a videotape. Mental rehearsal is when you actually put yourself in a tournament situation and you see the crowd and you hear the noise and you see the target and you feel the wind and you can smell the field. The more senses you can bring into it, the better it's going to work. Later, we're going to go over each one of those different type of techniques and teach you how to refine them and use them to make them work best for you. The term mental training bothers a lot of people because they think you have to have some kind of special skills or a PhD to do it. That's not the fact. If you've ever daydreamed, you've mental trained. That's all it is letting your mind think about something and concentrate on it and visualize it. So if you can sit and visualize yourself sitting on a beach somewhere, sipping a margarita or a toddy and having a good time, you've mental trained. You've been there, you've done it. Now all you have to do is focus your mind on mental training on a particular subject, like on archery, visualizing the shot. There's no big secret to it. There's a lot of different types of mental training. There's hundreds of books and tapes and videos out about it. There's really nothing new in mental training. It's just finding a one that works for you. If you find a program and it doesn't work, try another one. Don't give up on it. Try a different style of mental training. Eventually you'll find one that'll work, and it will definitely help. I was one of the biggest non-believers in the world. I finally tried it. It works. Why mental train? And that's a good question, because when I first heard about mental training, I thought, what a joke. You have got to be kidding me. There is no way, just by thinking about something, I can improve my score. And I was on the national team about 3 years before I finally decided to start mental training. And what finally got me to do it was the U.S. national team, which is the top 10 men in the United States, is all sitting together. Rick McKinney, Darryl Pace, Ed Eliason, the whole bunch. And we were talking about how the national team camps hadn't really helped us out. And Rick McKinney got fed up with us. And he looked around the room and he said, you know, I'm not worried about any of you guys ever beating me. Now, that was the top 10 men in the United States were sitting in this room. And I thought they were going to kill the boy. But I thought to myself, you know what? We haven't beat him. This was 1985. He had won the Worlds in '83, was second at the Olympics in '84, and won the Worlds in '85. He went on to say, the reason you will never beat me is because I mental train, I weight train, I run, and I shoot a lot of arrows. Every year, he said, we bring you to these team camps. We teach you how to train, we teach you how to mental train, we teach you how to eat right, we teach you how to shoot, and every year you always go home and do the same thing you've always done. He said, you do what you always do, you'll get what you always got. And I thought, yep, he's absolutely right. This was my 3rd year on the team, and I've done none of these things. But I still didn't believe in mental training, so I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to do mental training, it's not going to work, and I can go, ha, it didn't work, you were wrong. So I paid attention, I did the mental training starting in 1985. The summer of 1986, I shot my first 1300. Up until then, 1275 was the highest I'd ever shot. In 1988, I won the Olympic gold medal. By the end of 1986, I was a believer in mental training. The way mental training works is it prepares your mind to accept things that it can't accept right now. We all have comfort zones. Your subconscious puts a limit on everything you do. How fast you drive a car, how much money you make, how much you weigh, how well you shoot a bow and arrow, what kind of grades you get in school. Think about it for a minute. You're at a tournament. You start your first distance and you shoot the best score you've ever shot in your life at that distance. What's the next thing that's going to happen? You're going to fall on your butt the next 2 distances until you're about down to the level where you normally shoot. Then you'll shoot well at the last distance. That's because your subconscious says to you, wait a minute, you're not this good. You've started way too fast. We need to slow down here. You need to mellow out. We'll shoot our basic score. We'll be happy. I can accept that. Or the other way around. Say you start out your longest distance and you've had the worst score you've ever had in forever. You can't even remember when you shot so bad. Lo and behold, you catch on fire for the next 2 distances. Gets you right back up to about your average. You finish out about average. You've shot your average. Your subconscious is happy. It won't let you go above or below certain limits. That's your comfort zone. That's where you're going to stay stuck. Now there's two ways to raise your comfort zone. The first one's the hard way. You practice and you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice, and one day you finally shoot higher than you ever have before. And now your subconscious says, oh, well, now I'm better. And so it can accept a higher score. That's the hard way. The easy way is you make your subconscious believe that it's actually better than it really is. And once your subconscious believes it, it will make you do whatever it takes physically to get your performance up to that level. Now it sounds weird, but it's true. If you think about it, back when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, they said it can't be done, impossible, never happened, no way. Well, nobody bothered to tell him that. He went out and broke the 4-minute mile. Within 3 months after that, I believe there was 16 guys ran sub 4-minute miles. Because suddenly it wasn't impossible anymore. It could be done. Once he did it, everybody believed they could do it. And they did it. It's all right here. If you believe you can do it, you can make it happen. First type of mental training I'd like to talk about is visual imagery or mental imagery. And all this is sitting down and thinking about and seeing yourself shoot a shot. Now you need to go through the process from the time you pull the arrow out, load it on the bow, knock it up, put your fingers on the string. You need to see this all from the inside to start with. That's usually the easiest because that's how you see it every day as you shoot your bow. When you get to where you can sit down and picture a shot from start to finish, you've accomplished that type of mental imagery. That's all there is to it. Now, it's not as easy as it sounds sometimes, and I won't lie to you and say you'll be able to do it the first time. It took me a while before I could go through an entire shot sequence in my mind. I would always picture myself at full draw. I'd shoot the shot, and then I'd be back at full draw again. I could never see myself actually pull the arrow out, load it up, and go through the whole sequence. So I had to go out on the field and literally watch myself take an arrow out of the quiver, load it on the bow. Now people watching me thought I was absolutely insane because I was paying so much attention to the way I loaded my bow, the way I put my fingers on the string, the way I put my hand in the grip. But once I did that a few times, then I could go home and picture it in my mind so I could see the entire shot sequence. And then I would visualize myself shooting arrow after arrow. And you always visualize it as a perfect shot. You don't want to visualize mistakes because you're training your subconscious to see that shot and to be able to reproduce that shot. Now once you learn to do it from the inside, you can learn to do it from the outside. Now this opens up a whole new realm of possibilities because now you can be standing in front of yourself or behind yourself or above or beside from any angle. You can watch any piece of your form. You can watch just your bow hand. You can watch just your release. You can watch just your follow through. You can watch just your back muscles. You can pick your form apart and watch yourself do everything perfectly every time. You can see the arrow fly to the target. You can see it hitting a 10 ring. You can be at any tournament you want to be. You can shoot any score you want to shoot. But you always want to visualize it positively and perfectly. So you're training that subconscious to be that way. Whether you're actually shooting that well or not, it doesn't matter. Once your subconscious believes you are, it'll make you shoot that way. It'll make you physically do things right because it can't stand to have itself thinking of you as a perfect machine and you being something different. So it's going to work to try to get you to that perfect state. That would be the ideal. Well, none of us are perfect, but that's what you want to try to work towards, is that perfect shot. When you're preparing to do mental imagery, a lot of people always ask, when should I do it? How should I do it? Should I set aside a certain amount of time to do visual imagery? If you can set aside a period of time to do your visual imagery, that's great. When I tried to do that, I tended to fall asleep after about 10 minutes of trying to visualize myself shooting archery. So what worked best for me was to do it periodically throughout the day. If I was standing in line at the supermarket or sitting at a red light or had some free time on my hands, I would sit down and visual image myself shooting 3 or 4 shots in a row. At times I can sit down and do it for 5 or 10 minutes and then I start to lose my concentration. If you can sit down and do it for half an hour, that's great, and you should do it that way. For me, it was better to do it all day long, through the entire day. That way my whole life was kind of wrapped up in what I was doing with archery, and it worked best for me. Now when you do your mental imagery, you want to try to make it as vivid as possible. Don't just see yourself shooting the arrow, but you want to actually experience the whole shot. You should see yourself walk onto the field. You should hear the sound that your feet make on the grass as you walk onto the field. You should be able to smell the grass. You can see the target bales. You can feel the breeze. You can feel the sun. The more vivid you can make it, the more senses you can bring into it, the better it's going to be, and the more your subconscious mind is going to believe it. So you can visualize yourself being at a particular field you want to be at. Before 1988, I would visualize myself on the Olympic field. I had never actually been to Seoul, Korea, but I've seen pictures of it. So I'd visualize those pictures and see myself standing there, and I could hear the crowd, and I could feel the wind, and I could get myself worked up. I could get the butterflies in my stomach like I was actually there during the competition. And the more you can do that, the more you can make it vivid, the better it's going to work, and the more your subconscious is going to pick up on it. So practice those things. Sometimes just sit down and visualize yourself sitting beside a stream, or visualize yourself watching birds fly, or watching somebody else shoot archery, or whatever you want to concentrate on, till you can get that image just perfect in your mind, and then you can apply that to your archery. Remember, the more vivid, the better it's going to work. Next, I'd like to talk about positive affirmations. As I said earlier, your subconscious sets limits on everything you do. You have a comfort zone for everything, especially archery. To get out of that comfort zone, all these mental training techniques will help you to raise your subconscious expectation of how you should perform before you physically do it. Well, for me, positive affirmations have worked the best out of all of them. I've seen the best results using this type of technique. Positive affirmation is merely writing down on a 3x5 card positive things you want to work on. Now, a positive affirmation should be written in your own handwriting because it's more vivid and it brings out more in your own handwriting. If you let somebody else write it for you or you type it out, it's just not as powerful. They should always be positive. That's why it's called a positive affirmation. You want your subconscious working on positive thoughts and positive feelings to help raise your performance. They should not be more than about 3 or 4 lines long. They get too long, you kind of lose what's going on. And you should not have more than about 10 or 15 positive affirmations in your card deck at any one time. Now, the easiest way to do it is to write them down on a 3x5 card and carry them with you everywhere you go. These things won't work unless you read them at least 8 times a day. At least 8 times a day. The more you can read them, the better off you are. And it only takes a few minutes to go through your 10 or 15 cards and read them. Now, after a while, you're going to have them memorized. So don't just pull them out of your pocket and hold them up against your forehead and go through them in your mind. You got to read them word for word on every single card. And as you read it, visualize what's on that card. Now, a positive affirmation would be something like, I enjoy and am comfortable leading archery tournaments. Or I enjoy and am comfortable winning archery tournaments. I enjoy and am comfortable weightlifting 3 days a week. I hated weightlifting. But after reading this positive affirmation for a few months, I got to where I actually enjoyed it. And if I missed a day, it drove me crazy. Another good one is I enjoy and am comfortable shooting strong shots in the wind. My form always fell apart in the wind. After reading this card, pretty soon you begin to believe what's on it. And you won't even realize it's happening at the time. You're reading your cards, you're visualizing yourself shooting in the wind, you're shooting strong shots, they're going in the middle, but you don't see a whole lot of difference to start with. 6 months down the line, you still really haven't noticed a whole lot. You're thinking, all right, this stuff doesn't really work. But then you look at where your scores are now as compared to where they were 6 months ago. And you're shooting a lot higher scores, and you're shooting with more confidence, and you can't figure out why. Well, the reason you don't see this immediate overnight change is because your subconscious has slowly started to believe what's on this card. And so you just expect to shoot that well. It's not just going to be an overnight immediate thing. You're slowly going to believe what's on that card, and as you believe, you'll start to shoot better. And as you start to shoot better, you'll get more confident and you'll believe. And if you reach a goal on your card, I enjoy and am comfortable shooting scores of 300 at 90 meters. If you reach that goal, then raise the score on your card. Now, you got to remember that your subconscious is not a complete idiot. If you're an 1100 or a 1200 shooter and you write I enjoy and am comfortable shooting 1300s, your subconscious isn't going to buy that. It's not going to buy a jump that large. It will believe I enjoy and am comfortable shooting 1230 if you're a 1200 shooter, or I enjoy and am comfortable shooting 1270 if you're a 1250 shooter. So make it reasonable, but make it just outside your reach. So as you read these cards, you can see yourself shooting that 1270 or that 1300 or that 1240 or wherever you are in your particular career. But it's outside your reach. Although you can visualize it, then all of a sudden you're going to reach that score, and it's going to be comfortable, and it's going to be easy, and you're not going to know why. It's because of those cards. So then you raise the score a little higher on the card, and then you start all over again. A lot of times you'll get something on a card like I enjoy weightlifting. Well, when I did enjoy weightlifting, then I could take that card out and replace it with something else I wanted to work on. Because now I really did enjoy it because it was part of what I do and part of who I am. And that's the way this stuff works. It slowly just kind of takes over. And you slowly start to believe. And the next thing you know, you're actually doing it. Now, when I said that it will make you physically do what it takes to reach these levels, if you are right now only practicing 2 or 3 days a week, and one of your goals is to be a 1300 shooter, and you start working towards that goal, I'll guarantee you, because of these cards, you'll start practicing more often, and you'll start practicing longer, and you'll start shooting more arrows, and you won't know why. I just feel like I need to go out and practice today. And you'll go out and do it. And it may not be a day that you would normally practice, but you will. And it's all because your subconscious is kicking you in the butt, making you get out there and do it, because it doesn't like the fact that you're down here when it feels you should be up here. So give this stuff a try. Give it 6 months and see if it doesn't help. I bet it does. Before you begin your mental training program, you need to sit down and write out your goals. You have to set goals. If you're going to take a trip in a car, you wouldn't just get in the car and start driving and try to figure out where you were going. You would sit down, take out the map, pick the best and the shortest route to get from where you are to where you want to be, and that's the route you take. That's what goal setting is. You need to sit down and figure out where you are right now and where you want to be. And for me, I sat down one day and decided I wanted to get to the Olympic Games. Well, I'm sitting at about a 1250 average, and I want to get to the Olympic Games in 1988. I know I'm going to have to be shooting 1300. So I had to figure out how to get from 1250 to 1300, and how to get from never making an international team to the Olympic Games in 3 years. So I wrote down my ultimate goal to be the Olympic champion in 1988. And then from there, I worked backwards to where I was. Well, to be the Olympic champion, I had to make the Olympic team. So that was one of my goals. Well, to make the Olympic team, I probably would have to make a world team to get some experience. So to make a world team. Well, if I'm going to make the world team, I might as well try to win the world championships. So I put win the world championships in there. Now your goals break down into 3 different types. You have your ultimate long-range goal, you have medium-range goals, and you have short-term goals. Now short-term goals are something that can be accomplished within 3 to 6 months. A medium-range goal is about a year, year and a half, and long-range goals are anything after 2 years. Once you break everything down to make the world team, for me, the next step would have been to make the national team. From the national team, I wanted to make sure that I had some experience in big tournaments. I wanted to win nationals. And I broke this all the way down to my short-term goals of, I need to shoot more arrows. I need to lift weights. I need to do mental training. I need to eat better. I need to run. Right all the way down to my everyday type of training. Now I would keep this list and get up every morning and review it. And I'd always keep the same list. And whenever I accomplished a goal, I wouldn't write a new list. I would cross that goal off. And then I would write another new one above it. That way I could pick up that list and look at it and actually see that I was making progress. I could look down and go, wow, I've crossed off 5 things today. Now certain things it's good to set a time limit on. Certain things will have an automatic time limit set on them. I want to win nationals. Well, nationals only comes around once a year. So if I win it this year, I can cross it off my list. If I don't, then I have to write it down next year. I want to win nationals. Other things I like to put a time limit on myself. I want to shoot a 1270 by such and such a date. That would make me really concentrate and focus harder on that particular thing. Other things, it's not so important to put a time limit on because you don't want to put too much pressure on one certain item. So you have to feel what's best for you, what things you know you should put a time limit on and what things you should just have on your list without a particular time limit. And as you start crossing these things off the list, you'll actually see some progress. If you don't have this list, you just kind of wander aimlessly around and think, well, today I'll go out and I'll practice and I'll just shoot my arrows, which is what most people do. I had something particular that I was going to work on every single day when I went out on the field. Today, I'm going to work on my release. And that's what I'd work on. Sometimes I'd work on it for a week at a time. Then I'd cross it off my list. Then I'd write down the next thing I wanted to work on. Today I'm going to work on my bow arm. And that's what I'd work on. Every day I had a plan. And when I was done every day, there was something I could cross off my list. But I'd also write something new on the list on the short-term goals. Pretty soon those short-term goals start adding up, and next thing you know, you've accomplished a goal that is a mid-range goal. That's when it starts to get fun, because that was something you set a year ago, and now all of a sudden you've accomplished it. Now you're really going to feel like you're moving towards your goal. The biggest thing when you set these goals is never give up. If you don't accomplish them the first time around, write it down for next year or the next time it comes around. Always keep trying and striving to move towards these goals. That's where your mental training is going to help you, because when I first thought about the Olympic Games, I couldn't even visualize myself winning the Olympic Games, much less making the team, winning the gold medal, none of it. Couldn't even picture it. As it got closer and closer to the games, it was almost like I expected to do it, because my subconscious believed through all this mental training that's what I was going to do. When I went to the Olympic Games, in my mind it was almost like, well, I have to go before I can win the medal, but it's already mine. They can just go ahead and engrave the back of the medal. In my mind, I had won it so many times. I had done so much mental training that it was mine. Unfortunately, before 1992, I didn't do as much mental training, and I ended up 5th, not 1st. Believe me, this mental training works, so really give it a try. Now that we've gone over a few mental training techniques, here's a way to take those and actually apply them to your practice session. Too many times you do all your mental training indoors and you never actually get it out to the archery range where you need it. While I was training for the '88 Games, I would visualize myself actually at the games while I was out shooting. I could visualize in my mind what the field looked like. I could visualize the smell of the Saunders target bales that were out there. I could visualize what the grass was going to feel like under my feet. I could visualize the flags and the crowds, and I'm standing on a field in the middle of Arizona shooting all by myself. But in my mind, I was at the Olympic Games. Well, then I'd hear them blow the whistle, and I'd walk to the line, and I'd shoot my last 3 arrows of the Olympic Games. I'd hear the crowd go wild. I'd be jumping around the field. People walking by thought I was absolutely crazy. But in my mind, I had just won the Olympic Games. And I did that thousands and thousands of times before the Olympic Games. And I got to where I could visualize that so well that I would literally have butterflies in my stomach and goosebumps on my arms. And it's 105 degrees outside. And I am as far from Seoul, Korea as you could possibly be. You can do the same thing. If you're preparing for a particular tournament, while you're out practicing, visualize yourself at that tournament. See what you're going to actually see when you get to the tournament. You see the Saunders bales lined up out there. You see the field. You can smell everything. You can see the grass. You know what's going to happen. You see yourself shoot the perfect arrows. Then you see yourself step to the line, so you actually step to the line. You pull the arrow out. You actually execute the perfect shot in your mind. Then you physically execute a perfect shot. And you just do that over and over again. And at first, you're not going to execute perfect shots, and you won't execute perfect shots every time, but in your mind, you will. If you make a mistake, decide what you did wrong. Visualize how to do it properly, and then do it again. Do this over and over again. Next thing you know, your form gets better, you become more confident, things begin to fall into place. You can also do this when you're at the tournament, because now you've done it in practice, now you can do it at the tournament. When you're sitting in your chair waiting to go to the line, visualize yourself shooting those 3 arrows you're about to shoot. Feel how it's going to feel to shoot that arrow and come off the string clean and see it go in the center. Then when they blow the whistle and it's your time to go to the line, your mind already feels that you've done it. Now it's just a matter of going up there and letting your mind run the program that you've given it of these perfect shots. If you do this, it actually works. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. So don't expect to watch this tape one time, sit down tonight, do some mental training, and then go out tomorrow and shoot a 1300. This takes time and it takes repetition. But if you work at it, it's going to help. Now that you know how to apply your mental training programs to actual shooting situations, you need to have more than one program that you're comfortable with. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't do just mental imagery or just the positive affirmations. You need to have more than one program that you're comfortable using. And you need to have programs put together that you can use at the tournaments. For example, sometimes when I'm at a tournament, I don't want to know what my score is. All I want to do is work on strictly the execution of the shot. Just shooting one arrow after the other, visualizing those perfect shots, and trying to shoot one after the other. Other times when I'm at tournaments, I want to know exactly what my score is, how well I'm shooting, what everybody else around me is shooting. I want to know everything that's going on. And it just depends on the day and how I feel. So just like you're going to have your backup equipment, you need to have backup mental programs. Because some days, what worked yesterday might not work today. So you want to have a different program you can fall back on, just in case that happens. I've gone months at a time, and one program works great. Don't want to know what anybody else is shooting. I'm just going to sit here, visual image my shots, and shoot them. Then one day I'll show up at a tournament, and I just have to know. I feel like I'm really confident that day. I know I'm shooting well, and I want to keep track and see how well I'm shooting. Boost my confidence. So I'll keep track of how I'm shooting and how my competition's doing, and if I'm ahead or behind or if I'm catching someone or not. I'll watch the scoreboard. More often than not, I don't want to do that. But I have that backup equipment there. Just like I have my backup bow, I have my backup training program. So don't go to a tournament with just one program. Work on several that you're very comfortable with and that you can pull out at any time and plug in case your main one doesn't work. Self-hypnosis is a great way to get yourself relaxed before you do your visual imagery. Now, self-hypnosis is a term that bothers a lot of people and they think it's voodoo or whatever. All it is deep relaxation. Now they call it progressive relaxation. The way you get into this is very simple. Sit down in a nice quiet room, get comfortable, have your feet flat on the floor, your arms nice and relaxed, and visualize yourself walking down a flight of stairs. And as you walk down the stairs, you become more and more relaxed. The further down the stairs you go, the more relaxed you become. You can feel the carpet under your feet. You can smell the smells that are around you. And the further you go down the stairs, the more relaxed you get. Another way you can do it is you picture yourself going into an elevator and you watch the numbers. And as the numbers get lower and lower and lower, you become more and more relaxed. When you get to the bottom of the stairs or the elevator door is open, you're in a place that's very tranquil and very serene, and it can be your favorite place. For me, it was always this cliff that we used to go that overlooked this big, huge valley where I lived in Colorado. And I could visualize myself sitting at that place, and it was very relaxing. And I could feel the breeze, and I could look at the view. And you just sit there in your mind and relax and watch all this happen. And as you do this, you become more and more relaxed. And then when you're nice and relaxed, then you go through and you do your mental process of watching yourself shoot shots and watching yourself do it properly and watching your form be perfect and watching your arrows go in the center, watching yourself win the tournament and stand on the victory podium and receive your medal. And the more things you can do to bring this whole package together, the better this mental training is going to work for you. To get the most from your mental training in practice and in tournaments, you want to make sure you have no outside distractions in your life. You don't want to be worried about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or the dog made a mess on the carpet. You can't be bothered with that stuff. You have to focus on archery. So when you go out on the field, you want to make sure everything's in order, or you need to put it out of your mind. You don't want to be worried that your equipment's falling apart, or that this isn't right, or that that's not right. Now, people are always asking me about my equipment. You have to have confidence in your equipment. Some of the things that I shoot the new Hoyt Radian recurve, 68 inches at about 48 pounds at my draw length. I use the Easton ACE stabilizer system. I use a Cavalier free flight arrow rest, and I also use a Cavalier button. Shoot a Shibuya sight. Finger tab I use is a Cavalier Elite finger tab. I use the Saunders arm guard. It's ventilated, extremely cool during the hot weather so you're not dying of heat stroke out there. The arrows I shoot are Easton ACE 470s, about 30 inches long, and I fletched them with Arizona Plastifletch P16 vanes. They're extremely lightweight, very durable. Now I fletched them with their new cyanoacrylate glue called Fast Set. 5 seconds it bonds the fletch to the arrow, and you're never going to have to worry about them coming off. Now the equipment I use won't work for everybody, but it works real well for me. So you may want to give some of these things a try. Mental training is the most important part of the whole archer, but it's not the only thing. You have to have proper form, you have to have your equipment tuned, you have to put in your practice time, and you have to have your mental training. Without all these things, you're not going to be shooting the scores you want to shoot, and you're not going to be happy with them. If you're not practicing, if your equipment is not tuned, and if your form is not there, then all the mental training in the world is not going to bring it all together. But once you put this package together and incorporate some of these mental techniques into your training and into your tournament preparation, you're going to be extremely happy with your results. So stay positive and go for the gold.